Hey everyone, this is Wayne Stender. Before we jump into today's podcast, I want to let you know that we're brought to you by our friends over at Creating a Masterpiece. Creating a Masterpiece does really art projects for your kids. They take your kids step by step through different art things, painting, drawing, sculpture building, wire form, really to awaken the picture smarts in your kids. They give you really a cheat sheet of the different things that you're going to need for the project. And then they walk your kids through step by step how to create a beautiful painting or a wire sculpture or some clay sculptures that really are inspiring, not just because the kids create great, beautiful art, but also because they've done a hard project. And the teachers that do it really have a solid biblical worldview. They love Dr. Kathy. They love what we're doing here at Celebrate Kids. We're so thankful that they're sponsors of our ministry here at Celebrate Kids. And I want to encourage you to go check them out. Go to creatingamasterpiece.com. Again, that's creatingamasterpiece.com. Now let's turn to Dr. Kathy Cook.
We have a responsibility to show kids that what we're doing in school, even the homeschool classroom, if you will, is applicable and relevant to the way that we live life. And it shows up, and it shows up in ways that might be surprising.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So, Dr. Kathy, today on the Celebrate Kids podcast, in this daily segment, Facing the Dark, there's something that I've found that I think is kind of interesting in how we understand learning. I found this article that highlighted that educators have really long debated the merits of two approaches. But there's a new report in psychological science in the public interest that shows that children learn most effectively when instruction follows an evidence based cycle, really grounding facts in a concept of understanding, using brief timed practice to make those facts really automatic in their learning, and then returning to a discussion and reflection to deepen that knowledge. The report is called, quote, What the Science of Learning Teaches Us About Arithmetic Fluency, end quote. I think that's an awesome topic title. You could tell that there wasn't any like really creative people in that. They just said this is what the study says. I just think it's super fun, but it covers insights from developmental cognitive science to show how best to foster and build a children's arithmetic fluency, basically their math fluency. They generally define this as a child's ability to quickly and accurately solve math problems. The researchers propose an expanded definition of math fluency to include not only the automatic recall of facts, things like 6 times 8 is 48, but also noticing that using a number has relationships to solving other problems. I think the report is really interesting, Dr. Kathy, because it basically says make math part of your life again. They're saying that we need to build greater relationship to what kids are learning in school and what's in the world. This is a intense report. It's super nerdy, but I do wanna ask you, what do you kind of make of this?
I love the conclusion that you drew, that they're actually talking about the memorization of math facts, becoming fluent, meaning that it's automatic and easy. You don't have to give much cognitive thought to it. It's just on the tip of your tongue. And this idea that we can then use that data, use that information to quickly and accurately solve real math problems. Number relationships, yeah, numbers are everywhere, right? You can't go anywhere in a day and
Mhm.
not have numbers there. Do kids see them and do they know what to do with them? So I love that idea. I want to just tell our listeners too that the idea of fluency is very, very important. The children's math fluency. In my PhD is in educational psychology and reading, and I studied reading fluency. Does it matter if children can read like I'm speaking versus a child who reads like this because they're unsettled with the words? And I was looking to see if you become more fluent and more automatic, does it enhance other aspects of reading? So I love this idea that somebody's looking at math fluency. Is it an automatic thing? If you say to a kid, you know, what's 4 times 4? Do they instantly know? If you say what's 10 times 2, do they instantly know? If they do, they'll be more confident in math subtraction. They'll be more confident in addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and then these problem solving opportunities. I think it's really cool.
I love that, Dr. Kathy. I think it's also interesting that they're wanting to move kind of beyond fluency and get into this idea of memory, but moving actually into relationships. And I'll tell you that I think this is interesting because relationships for my 6 and 7 year olds are so different than what my 13 and 14 year olds are learning in terms of relationships and math fluency. Does age impact this at all, or should we kind of expect that all our kids we should develop a sense of relationship in numbers, or does their age kind of guide some of that as we're teaching our kids and helping them grow?
Yeah, their age will guide some of it. The older you are, the more abstract you can become, the more that you can begin to understand real world problems. I think what we do is we make a mistake with young children and just study the memorization of math facts without showing them why it matters. Like if you I taught second graders for 4 years. If all you do is memorize 1 plus 1, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 3, 4 times 5, but they don't understand the value of math, then why are they doing it? Like if they're when they're learning spelling words, they get to then create sentences and create paragraphs and write stories and then read the story to grandma, and so letters make words and words make sentences and sentences make paragraphs and paragraphs make stories, and it becomes something. If all you're doing is teaching children a math fact and you're not showing them that it can build into something like problem solving, then they're sitting there wondering, why am I doing this? So many minutes of every day. It's so boring.
I love that, Dr. Kathy. I love that because that was my life growing up, right?
Mm.
The school that I was being taught at really taught me that math was its own world. It didn't really interact with other things. I had math class, and that's what we did in math class. So we just kind of looked at math, and we didn't think about the concepts or the ideas that we were building to be able to be problem solvers. We just tried to solve all these problems. And I just thought in my mind, who in the world was this guy that put these problems in this book that I have to solve now? I just wanted to find him and say, if, hey guys, if we like, I don't know, like, had him do something different. If we got rid of him and had him do something different than write these books, we wouldn't have to do this math assignment. I just thought that, I always thought outside of the box, and I thought that's how we would actually solve the math problem is to get rid of the guy that's creating the math problems, which probably isn't very good, right? But I wanna ask you, though, a bigger question and kinda pull back from all of this because I think that some of this actually reflects on our home sometimes, maybe all the time, because I think a lot of times as, maybe the culture, we look at kind of the state of the school or the nation's report card, and we grade really, it's a grade on our government's ability to educate our kids. And we almost kind of give parents a pass on it, right? Like, as parents, we stand there and we say, "Our school districts need to be better." But I wonder how much of this, like learning math and becoming proficient or fluent in math, actually does start at home and is something that we should be looking at kind of at home, rather than just looking to the schools to be the places where our kids learn math. Is there something to that where we need to stop maybe gauging so much the teachers and the school, and as parents, we need to take some greater ownership in this? What are your thoughts there on that?
Another excellent question. I'm certainly in favor of excellent teaching, excellent teachers, excellent curriculum, the right number of minutes per day per subject. Those kinds of things really matter greatly. I am suspicious of any report card on the education system because there are so many variables and so many things that can happen. And we will say here at Celebrate Kids that parents should be a child's first and foremost and most important teacher. That comes out of Deuteronomy 6. And of course, that's the context of teaching God's truth, God's way, God's will, the reason Jesus came. That's on parents. We shouldn't outsource that to a church or a Sunday school teacher. And really, but in many ways, I think it's the same for all of academic search, academic learning. Most important thing I think for moms and dads to do is how to apply the truth. I mean, it is appropriate for teachers to do the heavy lifting of multiplication and long division, and now we subtract and now we multiply, and this is why it's wrong. And I think teachers are trained to do that, and teachers have curriculum that will be really good at that. What they don't have is a lot of time, and they've got 5 kids or 17 kids or, 48 kids in some of our overcrowded schools, and moms and dads have, anywhere from 1 to, more than that, and it's just more realistic to think about the application of truth. This is where parents need to really shine the light. Okay, so today you learned double digit addition with carrying. So what? Like, is that going to change your life? Who do you know in our family who probably does that daily? Oh, nobody. Wait a second. Your grandpa, he's an engineer. Have you ever seen his desk and all those pencils? Do you think that he maybe adds and subtracts? I don't know. I just think, Wayne, we have a responsibility to show kids that what we're doing in school, even the homeschool classroom, if you will, is applicable and relevant to the way that we live life. And it shows up, and it shows up in ways that might be surprising in the way that we serve, in the way that we develop career opportunities, the way that we mentor others. Yeah, I think let's do a better job at home of the application of ideas and meaningful practice. You're right about I've talked to a lot of summit students. How many of you, when you were young, had a page of 20 problems, you got the first 5 right, you did not wanna do the rest? Most hands go up. It's a ridiculous waste of time is what it feels like. So at home, let's have meaningful practice. Let's go into our, bedroom and find 5 sets of matching socks that we can donate because they're too small for our feet, and that's measurement, and that's counting. I don't know if that's a good example for our listeners, but let's see if we can do real world application of the skills that we've learned at school so that kids understand why we're learning them.
As Dr. Kathy and I were talking today, it reminded me of a passage that comes out of Luke chapter 2, and I'll begin reading at verse 46. After 3 days, they found him in the temple court, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. At the age of 12, Jesus was on the cusp of adulthood inside of Jewish culture. It's hard to imagine that, but that's the reality of their culture. During the family's visit to Jerusalem for Passover, he stayed behind in the temple. He engaged with teachers in conversation and in study. And the scene that we find here really bridges childhood wonder and emerging maturity. Education really emphasized question-based learning inside of a Jewish culture. Students weren't just there to memorize scripture. They debated and discussed it. They applied it. And Jesus modeled this rhythm of curiosity or concept and conversation or practice. And there was actually also a comprehension, a season of reflection that we see here with Jesus too. This shows that wisdom is not just static, it grows with relationship and humility and persistence. It's important for us to understand that in this, different ages really do learn differently, and that's kind of by design. There are younger children who build foundation through repetition, and other ones, and older ones who seek meaning through dialogue. I think it's important for us to pull back here and, as Dr. Kathy said, help our kids understand some of the realities of how what they're learning actually does apply to real life. And we can do this by following Jesus' model of asking questions more than giving answers. Asking things like, how do you notice? Or how do you solve that? When learning really does become a conversation and not just a command. And in that, we form thinkers who love truth and don't just remember it. I think teaching our kids that way can really illuminate some different things for them. And it could be a bright light to shine and cut through some of the things that they're wrestling with, questioning, or even struggling to learn. I hope that's an encouragement for you, and I hope this podcast and all that we do here at Celebrate Kids is an encouragement for you. On behalf of Dr. Kathy Koch, my name is Wayne Stender. So thankful you joined us today, and we're looking forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.